Live.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation Board of Directors meeting. Today is Wednesday, February the 26th. My name is Fareed Amin, and I have the privilege of chairing this meeting. In addition to welcoming my colleagues on the board, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to our audience who are joining us on live stream. I would certainly encourage you to continue to connect with us as we navigate some of the complexities around managing this corporation. I also want to take this opportunity to thank staff for their work in preparing us for this meeting. It's always good to have staff that provide us with the documentation and information beforehand. So I want to thank and acknowledge their support as well. I also, before I get into the agenda proper, just want to make a couple of comments. And first of all, I'd like to welcome the city manager's representative, Mr. Jag Sharma, who, as many of you know, is the deputy city manager for development and growth services. Jag has an illustrious and extensive career in the municipal sector and has particular experience with housing issues. As many of you know, he was a former CEO for the Toronto Housing Corporation. So we will benefit tremendously from Jag's participation. So Jag, on behalf of the board and on behalf of the entire Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation family, welcome to the board, and we look forward to having your engagement, and we are grateful for your expertise.
Very kind of you, Chair. And once again, a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I also want to welcome Councillor Crisanti, who has been reappointed to the board as the mayor's designate. We have once again also benefited from Councillor Crisanti's chair of one of our committees, but also his wise counsel as we navigate some of these complex issues. So, Councillor Crisanti, welcome again. Welcome back to the board, and we look forward to your continued engagement. I also want to welcome a new member, which is Councillor Matlow. Councillor Matlow has been recently appointed to the board. I'm not sure he will be joining us today, but we look forward to his engagement and also his experience and expertise as part of our board. And I also want to thank Deputy Mayor Morley. She has done a tremendous job in supporting us over the last couple of years. I know that she is moving on, but I want to thank her on behalf of the board for her engagement and wish her the very best as she continue to perform the deputy mayor's role and also the important councillor representing her ward. We have a very full agenda today with one deputation on item number 10, which is our strategic directions and the 2025 roadmap. I would be remiss, however, if I don't sort of acknowledge that today is the last day of Black History Month. This is a month where we honor and amplify the voices of Black Canadians, and we celebrate their many achievements and contributions. I also want to acknowledge that beginning next month is Asian History Month. And again, these months not only remind us of the diversity of the city we live in, but also the privilege we have of benefiting from the expertise of such a diverse population that work, live, and do business in the city of Toronto. So I would encourage you to take a moment to reflect on these 2 months and what they represent. Being the last Wednesday of February, it's also a Pink Shirt Day, I think, which is the last Wednesday in February. And this is, Tom, I see you've got your pink shirt. Mine is pink, but it doesn't show up on camera. So you can't blame me for that. So it is an opportunity on Pink Shirt Day which is also the Anti-Bullying Day, an opportunity for us to collectively stand against bullying and demonstrate a commitment to safe, accepting, inclusive, and equitable schools, work sites, and communities. Today is also Mahashivratri, which is a celebration for the Hindu community, and I want to wish all my Hindu colleagues and friends and all those who live in the city of Toronto happy Mahashivratri. And as many of you probably know, we're coming up to the month of Ramadan, which begins on March the 1st, and this is a blessed and holy month for Muslims, and again, a tribute to the diversity that we have all these celebrations in this great city. So let's take a moment to celebrate and commemorate with these individuals as well. I'll now go to the next item on the agenda, which is the Land and African Ancestral Acknowledgement. Toronto Seniors Housing acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. And now for the African Ancestral Acknowledgement, Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation acknowledges all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, either in this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to these ancestors of African origin and descent. And as Linda often reminds us, these are not mere words, but it's an opportunity for us to reflect on what these words mean and truly internalize some of this and acknowledge truly the Indigenous population that we serve and are privileged to be amongst, and also those Canadians who suffered as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We will now proceed to item number 3, which is the new business and approval of the public agenda meeting. The agenda was circulated. I hope you had an opportunity to look at it. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion moved by someone that the February 26, 2025 board public agenda meeting be approved as presented? I can't see that. Moved by Linda, seconded by Brenda. All in favor? That is approved. With all in favor, be it resolved that the February 26, 2025 public board meeting agenda is approved as presented. We will now proceed to item number 4. Are there any conflicts of interest? Hearing none, I presume if something were to arise during the course of our discussion, you'll identify it and we'll deal with it at that time. So we'll now move to item number 5, which is approval of the public session board minutes of December the 16th, 2024. Again, these minutes were part of your package. Are there any amendments to the board public session minutes of December the 16th, 2024? Hearing none, may I have a motion that the December 16, 2024 public session minutes be approved as presented?
So moved. Linda.
Thank you very much, Brenda. May I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Linda.
Thanks, Linda. Moved by Brenda, seconded by Linda. All in favor? That is approved. Be it resolved that the December 16, 2024 board public session minutes are approved as presented. We'll now proceed to the approval of the board closed session minutes of December the 16th, 2024. Again, you would have received this as part of your package. Are there any amendments to the closed session minutes meeting of December the 16th, 2024? Hearing none, may I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Linda, seconded by Brenda. All in favor? That is approved. With all in favor, be it resolved that the December 16, 2024 board closed session minutes as presented are approved. We'll now proceed to item number 7, which is the action item review. As we did mention on our February 10th Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee meeting, the first 2 items have been brought to the board and staff is working on these. So we'll give them an opportunity to complete and conclude their work in that regard. With that said, anyone has any comments, any additions, any questions on the action items list? Okay, hearing none, we'll now move to item number 8, which is the CEO update. Mr. Hunter, over to you.
Great. Yes, through the chair and to the board, thank you so much. I have a few updates for for the board meeting today. So I certainly hope that you'll find it interesting, and it reflects some of our activity since the last meeting. But first of all, just around Black History Month, as it does draw to a close, as Fareed mentioned, I wanted to share some of the ways that we've been recognizing and celebrating this important occasion. Focusing on our theme was Black Legacy and Leadership, celebrating Canadian history and uplifting future generations. And throughout the month, we had the privilege of sharing newsletters highlighting the valuable contribution and experiences of some of our own staff members, Alexandria Patterson-Richards, Seraphine Mukamana, Dina Forbes, Cecil Arete, and Ralston Nelson. And it was really nice to read and informative to read about their stories. We also, to date, have hosted 2 engaging lunch and learn sessions. The first was with Suzette Daly, exploring the really fascinating story of Lucy and Thornton Blackburn, freedom seekers who escaped enslavement and went on to found Toronto's first taxi company. And the second session, led by Shaquille Morgan, focused on confronting anti-Black racism. And both sessions were very well attended by staff and very interactive with the staff during the kind of the question periods amongst each other. And I'm looking ahead for this Friday. Hamlin Grange, the founder and principal consultant at Diversity Pro and a recent appointee to the Order of Canada, will be at our Lunch and Learn on the power and promise of diversity and the benefits of creating inclusive environments that value the perspectives and life experiences of everyone. And to just finally, in the winter edition of our Senior Speak, we shared an inspiring story from one of our tenants, Dorothy Sharp, whose grandparents were enslaved and escaped from Maryland to Antigonish, Nova Scotia. And really that family history is a testament to the strength and resiliency of her experience. And it's critical and crucial for us to acknowledge and celebrate the rich history and ongoing contributions of Black Canadians, and we remain committed to fostering a culture of inclusivity and understanding this within our organization. Also, around another event, many events, was the Lunar New Year visits, and Mayor Chow, she recently completed her annual Lunar Year visits to our buildings, and she visited 9 buildings over 2 days. And it was a really very engaging interaction with our residents. You know the energy that Mayor Chow brings to a room. And they featured special entertainment and singing. And I want to thank the staff who contributed to ensure that these were smooth and well-organized events, with special recognition to Arlene, Daryl, and Marie for their outstanding planning and coordination. Also, just an update on the, I'll save that one for last, but just also an update on our TSHC, and Ontario Health meeting update. And as we committed to the board, just like to provide a brief update on our January 9th meetings with representatives from TSHC and the Ontario Health concerning service delivery within our buildings. Attendees included Nadia Gavea and Ada Wong from TSHC, Scott Ovenden and Wilfred Chung from Ontario Health. And these the meetings really focused on as we've often spoke about, that really kind of critical need for comprehensive current state of assessment within our buildings to really inform our understanding of existing services, available resources, and our identified challenges. And we're very pleased as a first step that Wilfred Chang with Ontario Health, he's agreed to lead the development of a robust data collection and analysis plan, which will be accessible to the shareholders through a shared dashboard. And looking ahead, we'll be organizing regular meetings with the stakeholders from TSHC and Ontario Health. So the first step in that work is getting really solid data information on the needs within our tenants within housing. Also, just wanted to share with the board around a rent duplication. And earlier this year, we experienced an issue with January's pre-authorized rent payments that resulted in 502 of our tenants being unintentionally overcharged, a total of $137. And I just want to acknowledge that the concern that this caused for our tenants, but really a sincere appreciation and gratitude for our team, the dedication that was shown to I think within days, they kind of turned this around to get this this error corrected for our tenants. So being really responsive to that error and then to the needs of our tenants. And very kind of good news update is around our United Way recognition. And Jag on the call was the lead, the city lead around the United Way campaign, and we were grateful that we were as an organization recognized most recently as an outstanding employee engagement award. So it was very nice to receive on behalf of the city. So thank you, Jag. But also just sharing that we, as a group of staff, we raised over 15,000, and in fact, we had over 100% increase in staff participating in the payroll deduction. So it was, it was really a quantum leap for us in terms of participation in the United Way. Also around, and just another kind of risk incident that occurred for us was at 193 Wilson Fire. We had sent out correspondence to the board on this. And the fire marshal has completed their investigation. The determinant was reckless smoking, and we are continuing our efforts really to promote safety awareness among our tenants. And again, thanking the staff for just their incredible response to this and their on-the-ground support for tenants, during this difficult time. And just my final update is just letting the board know that this is Arlene Howell's last board meeting with us today, and just really wanting to thank her for her time and her really kind of commitment to Toronto seniors. Arlene was with here 8 months before the corporation became official on June of 22, and has stayed with us in some capacity. Most recently, though, as the Director of Partnerships, Engagements, and Communications. As many of you know, her work was foundational as it relates to our tenants in the Community Connect Plus, really kind of grounding the organization in the engagement, the relationships in our buildings. We now have regional meetings in the four regions 3 times a year. We have our active staff, and we're now looking at recruiting. For the next round of STAC, we have 33 applications at this point for STAC. And then, as you know, we have our tenant representation at the board. And so that, as I said, was really foundational. Arlene's work around the partnership area, the work most recently with Ontario Health, and where we hope to move in the future. She has been really pivotal in laying the groundwork and forming those relationships with those partners in the community, and of course within the communication, an area that she came on board for communications and has really kind of excelled. I think the way she has worked with her team to help set the tone through our communication really helps to kind of amplify the culture that we want to create here at Toronto Seniors. So in so many ways, Arlene just really helping for that to have established a very solid foundation for Toronto Seniors. Now we will stay connected with Arlene through support from her through our partnership work, but she is moving on officially from this role. And so I just wanted to take this time with the board and really recognize and thank you, Arlene, for your commitment and work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. And I think just on that note, I think you echo the sentiments of all of us in thanking Arlene for the tremendous work she has done in sort of connecting with tenants and keeping us engaged and keeping us always focused on our mandate, which is to allow and enable our citizens and our tenants to live in dignity and age in grace. So thanks again to Arlene for all the work, and thank you, Tom. I mean, I think the United Way accomplishment is quite an accomplishment, especially at this time when people are going through so many difficult times. It is great to see that an institution like yours and others have stepped up and provided that support to individuals who need that support. Any questions for Tom? Okay, Brenda, go ahead.
Just a quick one, Tom, regarding the meeting with Ontario Health.
Yes.
And you're saying proceeding with a data collection process. Will this be, what is this existing data? What data will you be looking at and looking? to guide you here? What
Yes, yeah.
data sets are we talking about?
Yeah, through the chair to Brenda. So Brenda, there's really kind of, I think there's two kind of sets of data. One is for one, what can Toronto seniors housing provide clearly with data, and aligning that with the Toronto community housing data that they're currently reporting, right? And so that we align. Actually, Toronto community housing, has the way they kind of collect data on their buildings relating to the risk with their tenancies. They're a bit more sophisticated than we are. So it's trying to align that data to represent kind of both of the organizations in working forward. But then also there's all that data, there's health data on our tenants in the buildings that Ontario Health has access to and we don't.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's the primary, that will be Wilfred's primary involvement with us, is to help establish that so it better reflects the need within the buildings, and then subsequently what services do we bring or potentially bring. Yeah.
So they have access to health data like emergency
Yes.
room visits and
Yes.
yeah, that's through ISIS probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, thanks. Anyone else? Any other questions for Tom? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Tom. Once again, appreciate the update, and thanks for the work you've done also on Black History Month. I think it's great to see that that work is carrying on and is meaningful and impactful to the organization when it comes to awareness and inclusion. So we'll now move to item number 9, which is OACH biannual July to December report. And once again, Melanie, welcome, Melanie, and thank you again for the work you do with us and with the TSHC. So I'll invite you now to present your report.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's nice to see everyone. So through the chair, I'm pleased to present to you the OACH biannual report. So we received 125 referrals in this period and screened out 34 files. I'm happy to report that of the 34 files we sent back, the majority of these files were returned for reasons other than non-compliance with the arrears collection process, and only 4 were re-referred to the OACH for intervention. In this period, 98 files were assigned to an early resolution officer for intervention, and in the majority of cases, the arrears were under $2,000 at the time of referral, demonstrating that TSHC is addressing arrears early before they accumulate to an unmanageable level. In addition, the OACH audit findings continue to be positive and have improved in all categories for this period. So we completed our work with 92 households in this period and avoided eviction in 96% of cases. So in 2024, we also referred 69 cases to the Toronto Rent Bank and accessed approximately $158,000 in funding. And we also continue our partnerships with Wood Green Community Services, and we're working with TCHC and TSHC to expand these programs. So things continue to work well with OACH and TSHC, and I welcome any questions from the board.
Thanks, Melanie. Go ahead, Brenda.
Oh, sorry.
Can't hear you.
Sorry. Is the rent bank money a grant? It's not a loan they have to repay.
Yeah, so through the chair, yes, it's
Okay.
a grant. Yep. It recently changed, so it used to
be a loan. Yeah.
It used to be a loan. So during COVID, it was a loan, and then just for market rent tenants, and then they changed it to become a grant. And now that it's expanded to RGI tenants, it is a grant. And it's also changed as well. So it used to be 4 months of rent up to $5,000. Now it's $5,000 is available to any household.
And they're funded through the city or through other levels of government?
Through the chair, it's through the city at this time.
Through the city at this time, right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Brenda. Thanks, Melanie. Are there any other questions from Melanie?
Just a quick comment, if that's okay. It's Linda.
Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that that Melanie presented also to the quality committee, and we just want to kind of and we were very pleased with the low arrears. I think it's like, there was a lot in that report, but that's really significant because that when you think about it, those kinds of that debt that can be very overwhelming for seniors, and it really speaks to actually the work of the corporation in making that happen. And we also want to acknowledge the new partnerships, like the Wood Green partnership and the Rent Bank are not insignificant and are actually contributing. So I think along the mandate of our committee was very pleased with that, and the joint work of OACH and the TSCH group.
Thanks, Linda.
If I could
All
say
righty.
something, and it's really true, because we're finding, because TSHC is able to send the arrears at such a low amount, that it's actually eliminating the need for repayment agreements, which is really great for the corporation, because it's just arrears are getting paid in full for tenants. So it's great for everyone, and the getting it to OACH early is really important, and it's really working.
Yeah.
So great job. Thank you.
So kudos to staff for providing that information on a timely basis and preventing the sort of accumulated debt that becomes often problematic. Tom, go ahead.
Yes, through the chair to the board. I just, and from an outcome perspective, it just is an example of how these arrears are coming down. At the beginning of January in 2024, our absolute arrears, right, was at 1.7 million. They are now down at the end of December to 1.5 million, right? So that number is coming down, which is significant. And also our rent collection is around 100% right now over the year. So that just speaks to the staff and their work, and Melanie and others. So I just think quantitatively that illustrates what's happening.
Great, thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Once again, Melanie, thank you very much. I appreciate you being part of the team, and thanks for your timely and important report. And thanks for coming to the board from time to time and give us an update. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll now move on to item number 10, which is the Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee report. And I'll hand it over to one of our hardworking chair, Linda. Go ahead. We have a deputation as part of item number 10, and we also have our Strategic Directions 2025 roadmap. I'll let Linda do her presentation, then we'll go to our deputant, and then we'll have Grant to do the strategic roadmap, please. Go ahead, Linda.
Perfect. Thank you. And before I actually just do a bit of a review of our last meeting, I too want to actually thank Arlene, particularly from our committee. I right from day one, Arlene has been a constant support to me as the chair and to the committee. And when I think about actually how many tasks we had to do and how many important initiatives that Arlene's fingers were on, I just want to thank you, Arlene, for all the hard work and success, and we'll continue this work as you set such great foundation. So we had our last meeting on February 26th. Not at February 26th. We had it on February 10th. Today's February 26th. And like usual, we had a full agenda. We looked at the work plan, which is, it's great to actually have in the early part of the year to know what's coming ahead, and to also be flexible if new issues come up, that we can add them. But we have our work plan. We looked at our operational dashboard, which also looks at things like that vacancy rate and other issues that we've been reporting on, and the unit inspections report. We heard a little bit more about the incredible work that the team does actually on those unit inspections that were all completed by the end of the year. We've also been very interested in the rapid rehousing initiatives and knowing what's happening there, and the team has committed to coming back and keeping us abreast of what happens and how many people are coming in that need urgent housing. We had our OACH report that you just heard. Our tenant experience survey action plan, and then the strategic directions for Q4 2024, progress report, and our strategic directions roadmap, which was approved by QTech. The quality improvement projects for Q4 2024 were reported as a progress report, and Arlene gave us a great update on the work underway with engagements and partnerships. At this point today, we'll be bringing forward the strategic directions 2025 roadmap, and that is something for approval, and discussing the strategic directions Q4 2024 progress report. And I think it's going to go over to Grant, but I think you probably want to do the deputation first, right?
Yes. So through the chair, we'll have the deputation first, then Karen will get I know Bill's on the meeting, I see,
Yeah,
so.
thanks. Yeah, thanks, Brian. So yeah, thanks, Linda. And I had the privilege of being part of that meeting, and it was a very full agenda, lots of good discussion. So thank you. So we'll now move to our deputant, Mr. Bill Lohman. I think he is with us. So Bill, I invite you to make your deputation. You've got 5 minutes starting now.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hunter, and members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to be heard this afternoon and give a tenant's perspective to the strategic direction for 2025. The amount of work that's gone into developing the foundation and structure for the new Seniors Housing Corporation over the last 2.5 years to implement an integrated framework an approach for the 83 senior buildings is undeniably impressive. And I have to say that I've had the good fortune to be a participant and a witness to, to this effort. And today, I just, more than anything, I wasn't sure, but I'm glad that I'm here to extend my grateful gratitude to Arlene for all of the work that she has done and putting up with me over these years. I've learned a lot and very fortunate for that experience. And I believe the framework that is here has real good possibilities. And I think right now we're at a transition in a number of ways. Arlene is leaving, and Daryl is coming in, and in moving things forward. At the same time, the Community Connect Plus model is integrating into into the operational aspects for each building, and I think that it's be good to take notice of some of these items that that can help to build trust and respect. Some things when we look at the objectives about being an excellent landlord. Action C talks about supporting tenant accessibility needs in buildings. Might be a good idea to plan to look at the buildings with older demographics that are using more and more walkers. To focus on those buildings to install ADOs, because if you have a walker, it's not easy to get through these doors, and so that's would be beneficial for the accessibility for these folks. And there's other things like we talked about the maintenance request. What about the projects that are a year or more past a completion date and that are still not finished yet? What impression does that leave with tenants? I think these are things that are ongoing, and they're not easy to address or resolve, but they are little things that do affect tenants, and their kind of understanding or approach to their interaction with housing and with the programming and the things of that nature. So I would just hope that there's some focus and some education with not only with the tenants, but with staff about about the roles and responsibilities that are coming with with the new tenant circle model coming into buildings, and that the idea about tenants being able to promote ideas and to be in charge of their their own activities in their community space. There needs to be some kind of space for that conversation and acknowledgement for it. So with that, I just once again want to thank Arlene for everything that she's done for for the tenants at Toronto Seniors Housing, and thank you all very much for this opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bill. And as always, we do appreciate your tenant perspective. And thanks for taking the time to go through the material and provide us some feedback. Your comments are always insightful, and I find them, it's a reality check for many of us as we deal with some of the issues impacting on our seniors. Particularly, you spoke about that integrated piece. And I think that's what we're striving for. None of us is as strong as all of us. So if we work together, if we break the silos down, if we try and find that horizontality across the organization and find that relationship with tenant, I think we can do a much better job. And thanks also for bringing the issue of accessibility and education and awareness, and also the reminder about those projects that may have gone over time in terms of their completion. So as always, Bill, thank you very much. I'm going to open it up if any of our directors, if there are any questions for Bill before we let him go. If not, Bill, once again, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to appear before us, but also more importantly, thanks for the work that you do with us. Appreciate it. Thanks. All righty. So, Mr. Grant, Coffee, I'll hand it over to you. So Grant will go through the Strategic Directions 2025 roadmap. As many of you know, we went through this at the Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee, had quite a bit of discussion. Again, we are looking for an approval of this item, so I'll let Grant present, and then we'll have a bit of a conversation, and if necessary, then we'll move towards a resolution on this. Go ahead, Grant.
Thank you, Fareed, and good afternoon, everybody, again. So through the chair, before the committee today, as Fareed has noted, is a report on an update to our roadmap for our strategic directions. We did take this through QTE, and part of what we've done over the last year, we did a similar update at the beginning of 2024, was we reviewed the existing roadmap and progress to our initiatives and activities as to the 4 objectives and 2 enablers on the roadmap. And throughout the year, as the committee and board, and the item after this will be about, we've been bringing quarterly updates as well on progress, both the dashboard and the initiatives. As we improved our planning processes associated with the strategic directions, we've held conversations throughout the year internally as well, and through all the different inputs that we have as we move forward on our activities as an organization. And we brought amendments forward. And part of this particular report before you today is a compilation of a roadmap update that reflects changes going forward for 2025. What we have before you in the attachments is both a clean version of changes and a marked up version, so you can see what was discussed at QTE in more detail. There are 153 time limited activities that we are tracking towards on the roadmap. That includes 25 new activities in the roadmap. There are 46 with revised timelines. We've removed 7, and we've moved 10 to ongoing. And from a completion perspective, because I think it's important the board is aware of, how far along are we on the progress on the strategic directions that were approved back in 2023. Of the 153, we are now 90 time limited activities complete, or about 59%. And then there's a table in the report that articulates the completion rate for each of the objectives and the 2 enablers. And you can see that we are, 78 to 80% complete on the first 2 objectives around excellent landlord and tenant engagement. Partnerships and innovation, we're about halfway done at 50 and 54%. And on organizational excellence and employer of choice, we're close to halfway at 49 and 48%. So there are still a ways to go on some of these. But before the committee and board today is a request to consider an approval for the roadmap update, so we can use this as the benchmark for 2025 to report on progress. And we do intend to work through later in this year plans around the next strategic directions exercise that would ultimately look to move beyond what this view is today. And I'll stop there and take any questions. I see Brenda, I think.
Sorry, Grant. Brenda, before I invite you, I just want to sort of a couple of comments to kind of reflect on what Grant just said. We've got 153 items that we're tracking, and there is a saying that what gets measured gets done, and we've seen an example of that because in some cases we are well on our way to implementing these directions, which is again kudos and compliments to our staff. Brenda, you had a question? Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Just a couple, and I apologize if you've maybe answered them. I was unable to make the meeting last time. One was on the question of partnerships. And my question is directed to the external versus internal. Now, by external partnerships, I mean community organizations we may be partnering with. And similarly with the internal partnerships, I'm referring here to citywide agencies or organizations that internal to our city operations. Where are we on that area? For example, the external partnership. Are we seeking to actively bring on board various organizations to deliver programs? I know there was sensitivity with this in the past years. Are we at the point now in terms of frameworks and accountability frameworks that we can proceed with various not-for-profits or community agencies to do some on-site programming?
So through the chair, I'll give an initial response and I may pass it over to Arlene to sort of provide a bit more detail.
Okay.
So within the strategic directions, objective 3 is around partnerships. And there are initiatives there that link into what you're getting at,
right.
Brenda. There are some aspects there around things like renewing partnership agreements, and a lot of work has been moving forward on that. There's also been a lot of work on things like the building profiles and the report that went to economic and community development, for example, and some of the aspects around how that is reflecting the work. At the last QTE meeting, Arlene did give an update in more detail around some of the partnership work. And I'll also mention that, there is some work on upcoming this year on a health and wellness related pilot that's being developed through the partnership table. So those are some of the things, but maybe I'll pass it over to Arlene for a second, if it's okay to maybe speak to the question in more detail.
Sure. So thank you. And through the chair, Brenda, we are working on the external partnerships. Our first order of business over the past year has been trying to get those partnerships agreement renewed.
Yes.
So that's been an area of focus, and that's taken actually a lot longer, and it's been a more involved process. We're pretty close to getting all of our existing partners on side with new agreements and insurances in place to ensure we're managing risk appropriately for the organization. And so that's on the external partnership side. We haven't grown our partnership tremendously. We did have 2 new partners by the end of the year, but we haven't had a focus on growth because we were, as you would recall, focused on trying to deliver over 200 tenant-led programs last year.
Right.
So we didn't have capacity to focus on that.
Yeah.
And so for this year, we are going to be focusing on growing those partnerships to address the wants and needs of the tenants that were identified in the 2024 annual building planning meeting. And we were very clear with tenants, and this was based on feedback that we had from our implementation table, where we have tenants advising us about how we implement Community Connect Plus. They said, focus on the tenant-led stuff, and then we'll get to the provider-led activities. Okay. And so this year we are going to be focusing on that, and we are in fact post the ECDC report that we provided in October of 2024. There was further direction at that presentation. A motion was put in place to strengthen the relationship between the city and the services that they have available, and those services being provided back to Toronto Seniors Housing. And we are working now with the city to reply to that motion. And I can tell you in the conversations that I've been having with our city partners, they're working very, very diligently across various divisions to come back to us with a proposal to meet the needs of tenants in the area of fitness and socialization, as well as trying to improve digital literacy. through the resources that they have available, and health information to help tenants build capacity around how to navigate the system or how to avoid getting into the system in the first place.
So are there any specifics? I'm looking for specificity, basically. I mean, we've talked about this, and I know there's been an issue of capacity, and I understand that. But in the terms of the city, agencies or partners, if whatever words we use, I mean, there are specific things that EMS could be doing on site, specific things public health could be doing. I'm looking at engagement with Parks and Rec because they can do off-site programming. Libraries, of course, we've talked about libraries before. So I don't know if we've put forward a request to those departments, or are we waiting for them to respond? I don't quite know your process, but I just wonder where we were with a little more targeted and specificity as to who we're going to engage with and what are we requesting of them.
So yeah, it's a great question. We can explore that a little bit, Brenda. So we are looking at Parks and Rec to bring where they can bring in-house programs into the buildings, and then also help them to communicate what's available in close walking vicinity to the buildings, so that tenants can have access to that through the Parks and Rec programming. Through the community paramedics, we're trying to work with them. We're looking to work with them to increase knowledge and awareness, to reduce the number of 911 calls they have to respond to, but also help people with education around things like diabetes management. Toronto Public Health, unlike what they did during COVID, where they really got involved in direct service delivery, their mandate does not really expand into that on an ongoing basis. So they will be helping us. They will help us with education, but we can look to our other community partners who are focused in the healthcare delivery space to support that area of need for the tenant population. So
that's a shame about public health, because I was hoping they would make a commitment to do vaccinations and all those, fall shots that everyone else is talking about. And if they could make commitments to actually do on-site visits to X number of buildings so people can get their vaccinated, as just as an example. So I mean, we've been talking, but there are some very specific practical things we could request. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
And lastly, the external partnerships, you said that this year it'll be more of a focus on that. Similarly, have we got a sense of what it is we're going to be requesting of them? Are we asking them to do on-site programming? What nature? Obviously, social, recreational type, those sorts of things that might include some of the healthcare, community health clinics, for example. Maybe they can come on and do the shots, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
So
yes, we are, Brenda, looking with our partners. The partners we will be pursuing are the ones that have been identified by buildings, what they want and need. And so we're looking for partners in those areas to do those that type of programming, be it remote monitoring or be it on-site education on specific topics, whether it is more diabetes management or more falls prevention. We are looking to develop strengthen partnerships in that area and develop new partnerships where they don't currently exist to be able to support areas in certain geographies.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And can I ask one last more question, Mr. Chair?
Sure. Yeah.
Once again, I apologize if you've answered this, but the issue about the rapid rehousing, this is something I had been requesting. I don't know whether you did a verbal report or a written report, but are we able to give the committee and hence the board specific numbers of who we've been rapidly rehousing? And I would also like to request that some report be made about the cost. I mean, there's some building repairs that have had to be done with some of the tenants, either upon eviction or they're leaving. If the fullness of the report can be shared with us, not only in terms of the numbers, and the third thing was the specific demands it must be placing on our staff and our staff managing this. Are we needing more resources for staff to handle these usually fairly high needs clients? So I don't know if that's Grant or who would answer that.
Yeah, through the I had my hand up to answer, but am I okay?
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, through the chair to the board. So Brenda, there was a written report for
Okay.
QTE on the rapid rehousing. So take a look at that, read through that, because
Okay,
I think
great.
there's some insightful information
Yep.
around the rapid rehousing, the supports. But I just want to raise the aspect of tenants who are who have the coming to our buildings as disadvantaged, the disadvantaged tenants, and you'll actually see that when they are not supported, and we take them off, they come off the wait list. They are actually there's more from an outcome. It's more challenging with the disadvantage than with the rapid rehousing, where we get the support from the city. So take a
Okay.
look at the
I
report,
will.
and then if you would still want to come back with some of those questions, glad to respond to those. So thanks.
I'll find that in the package for
Thanks.
the committee then.
Yes.
Okay, because it wasn't in the board package. Okay. All
Yeah.
right, thanks very
Thanks.
much.
Thanks, Brenda. And just follow up on the programs that Brenda spoke about in terms of collaboration with the city. Perhaps it might be helpful, Arlene or Tom, to kind of be a bit more proactive, and that those are my words, in identifying a few programs that we can focus on. So rather than sort of relying, I know this is not the case, but perhaps we can say to the city that here are some things that we need to focus on.
Yes,
And to Brenda's
yes.
point, if there's a particular event coming up, like flu season or something of that, to sort of make that offer, to say, we would appreciate if we can come and deliver some of those within
Absolutely.
our area. So if we identify and focus on a couple of programs, it might help them to, it might help also to focus the relevant city department. So.
Yeah, because
All right,
obviously
so
we can't burden them with everything, I understand
Yeah.
that. But if we
I
said
agree.
we would like 20 buildings have access to vaccinations every November or something, and see what their response would be to that. That's a specific thing. And I'm worried about losing the drive and the
Yeah.
thrust because of this lack of this always this consultation stuff that can sometimes delay things.
I agree, absolutely. So that's great. I mean, I think that was a good discussion on it. Thanks again, staff, for all of not only the setting of those directions that the board did, but also monitoring and following up and ensuring that we're all transparent on what progress is being made. All right, so we have to we need to approve this, right? So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the strategic directions, a Q3 2024 progress report. May I have a motion, please?
I'm happy to move that, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And Linda seconded. All in favor? That is approved. All right. So thank you, and thanks, Grant, and thanks to the team for all the great work. Appreciate all the work you're doing in monitoring. We'll now move to agenda item number 11, which is a report from our Corporate Governance and Human Resources Committee. And I'll pass it on to our next hardworking chair, Councillor Crisanti. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. So our last meeting was in December 16th, last year, of course. And just a refresher of a couple of highlights of that meeting. We approved the Toronto Senior Housing Board composition and also the CGHRC work plan progress update and Toronto Seniors Housing Board of Governors workshop. Then we had an employee engagement and equity, diversity and inclusion survey. We got results. So that was just some of the work we did at the last meeting. Now, looking forward to the March 19th meeting, we've got a pretty full agenda.
We've lost you, unless it's just me.
I think that should say the 2025 annual report. Governance, pardon me? Yeah.
Sorry, no, we had lost you for a few seconds. So you're back.
Okay. Mac, good. All right. And then we're also going to be talking about the governance work plan and have an update on that. We're going to have an idea strategy, a diversity lens as well, and idea committee terms of reference, and Toronto Seniors Housing employee onboarding.
Oh, shoot.
So I think we've lost Councillor. I think you're frozen. So I'll give a minute or two to see if we can get a councillor back on. All right, looks like I'm not sure. It's I mean, I don't know, Karen or Fatima or one of our staff can do a quick check with Councillor Casante's office.
Checking now.
Can you folks hear?
Yeah, checking now.
Can you
Mr.
folks
Chair,
hear me?
thanks.
Okay. All
Yeah, we
right,
can.
great. All right. Okay, so maybe what we'll do then, I'll give, we'll take a minute or so. I'll just give Karen a chance to check in, and then we'll, if not, we'll move on to item number 12. So if you can hang tight for 60 seconds or so.
Mr. Chair, still waiting to hear, but I believe there wasn't much more left of the counselor's update. So considering
All right.
time, and if we want to circle
Okay,
back,
so
we can.
yeah. Thank you, Karen. So we'll move on, and we'll go to item number 12, and when the councillor rejoins us, we'll sort of conclude that item. So again, I'll move on to item number 12, which is our Audit, Finance and Risk Committee. And again, we have our third hardworking chair, Mr. D'Souza. So Lawrence, over to you, my friend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the last meeting of the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee on January 30, 2025, we discussed AFRC's 2025 work plan, the whistleblower policy and fraud prevention policy, procurement change orders, and 2025 TSHC budget. Most of these items are on today's agenda for approval. Today, we will also be discussing 2022 operating surplus settlement, 2024 preliminary financial results, and an update on the 2025 TSHC budget. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. So as Lawrence mentioned, there are a couple of items, the whistleblower protection policy and the fraud prevention policy. You would recall that we had several conversations about this as staff were updating these policies. These two were severed from the other policies because we felt, and thanks to Lawrence for leading this, we felt that they need to be fleshed out a bit more, and I think we did at the last Finance and Audit Committee meeting. We had a bit of a good conversation on both of these policies, but they were in your package, and if there's any last minute questions or need for clarification, I will give you a minute or so to do so before I call a motion on this. And thanks again. I think staff did a really good job in capturing our comments. Brenda, go ahead.
Just a technical question. Is there sort of like an intake process? Sometimes people confuse whistleblower with other processes. So for example, if someone wanted to report harassment, thank you, and was maybe misinterpreting and using whistleblower as their process instead of something else. Is there a way that we funnel and differentiate?
Yeah, there is, but I'll let Tom answer it. But obviously, the recipient of that complaint would have to ensure that that's the appropriate channel. But I'll let Karen. Sorry, go ahead, Carol. You can speak to that.
You're on mute, Carol.
Can't hear. She's still on mute.
Okay, can't hear. Anyway, Brenda, I think the person receiving that intake would have to ensure that whatever
Okay.
complaint is being brought before him and for her fits within that mandate. If not, they would refer them to the other processes.
And there's an intake person attached to this function.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments on this from staff before we move on?
Yeah, if I can
We'll
may
get
ask,
Carol.
if I can may add, Mr. Chair, there is an intake process through the hotline, and in the presentation also has that intake stream. So certainly Carol can talk a bit more about that, but certainly that section of it is in the presentation. And you can go through that, and then it provides us with some sort with a stream there.
And that's the external agency you're referring to.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Okay. If there are no other questions or concerns, I will call the motion. So can I get a mover and a seconder? Don't all speak at once. Thanks, Brenda. Brenda, moved by Brenda, seconded by Jag. All in favor? That is approved. With all in favor, be it resolved that the whistleblower protection policy and fraud prevention policy are approved as presented. We'll now move on. The next sub item on item number 12 is the procurement change order, and I'll hand it over to Vince.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In front of you, section number 12B is the procurement change orders for approval, and we're requesting for the board to approve on change orders that are exceeding 20% of the original commitment value of the contract. In front of you, there are two items on there. The first item is the TSHC shared service delivery agreement in the amount of $12,026,279. And the second item is Rivent, which is a interpretation and translation services for $25,000. Please refer to attachment number 1 for further details. As Mr. AFRC Chair Lawrence alluded to earlier, this item was brought up in that and is pending for your approval. And with respect to the TSHC service delivery agreement, just a quick note that this SDA, we call it, will continue until at least 2027 at this point, until the contract with the service delivery agreement arrangement is in place. And we've also included some additional cumulative costs for further context in the attachment. And so I would take any questions if there are any questions right now.
Thanks, Vince. And for the benefit of those of you who did not attend the Defense and Audit Committee, we did sort of talk through this issue, and the issue of accountability and transparency was highlighted. And in the fact that although we are approving this and we realize that this is an important thing to follow through on, we did recognize that this is a significant amount of variation, but this is in line with similar policies across the different corporations with the City of Toronto. So any comments, any questions, any additional notations from staff before we move to adopt this? All right. So we'll now move to the procurement change order. We finished that one. So this one is
12C, 2022 operating surplus settlement.
Yeah. So no, I want to just approve the procurement. So this is number C, Karen. Sorry. Isn't this a procurement change order we just discussed?
Yes.
12B.
Yeah. So I want to get that resolution out before we move to the next one, if that's okay. All right. So again, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Linda.
Thanks, Linda. Thanks, Linda. Seconder. Thanks, Brenda. All in favor? That is approved. All right. 2022 operating surplus settlement. Vince, over to you again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the 2022 operating surplus settlement for approval. And the approval is for the 2022 operating surplus as the arrangement with TSHC and outlined in the contract in the transition agreement, section 10.2B. There is a note in there to say that any operating surplus goes back to TSHC at the end of that period after reconciliation. Included in the attachment is the auditor's report in 2022, which highlighted the amount that we've included in there. And right now we are requesting for approval because it exceeds the $500,000 limit for the budgeted and also exceeds the $250,000 for an unbudgeted item. And this was brought forward now as we're waiting to sort of finalize the 2023 reconciliation and also due to our cash flow position. And so we are ready to proceed at this point as the 2023 reconciliation has been processed, and wanted to bring this up to you with respect to this. And I will take any questions if there are anything at this point.
Thanks again, Vince. Are there questions, comments? Okay. If not, may I ask that someone move the following resolution, approve the 2022 TSHC operating surplus settlement with TSHC in the amount of $1,443,725 as outlined in the transition agreement, section 10, subsection 2B. May I have a mover and a seconder, please?
So moved.
Thanks, Councillor Crisanti moved and seconded by Jim. Welcome, Jim. Didn't see you, didn't acknowledge you. Appreciate you being here as always. So moved by Councillor Crisanti, seconded by Jim. All in favor? That is approved. So with all in favor, be it resolved that the 2022 TSHC operating surplus settlement with TSHC is approved as presented. We will now move to the 2024 preliminary financial result. And Vince, you're on again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And into the report, you will see under section 12D, the 2024 year-to-date financial result for information. Through December 31st, 2024, TSHC incurred operating expenses of $44,435,151 with total revenue of $49,858,390 for an excess of revenue over expenses of $5,416,805 million, including amortization expense. The excess of revenue over expense included three factors. We've included the quarter four surplus arising from the TSHC reconciliation, which has a net effect of approximately $10,854,034. We also incurred some additional expenses as well in the higher costs on the salary and benefits expenses in the tune of almost $1.7 million. And some of the factors included in this case here, lower than expected vacancy rate, payout of vacation, and also finalization of the post-retirement and including some of the salary band contingency and severance adjustments as well. With respect to the increase, we've also able to offset that through other savings, including the professional services and also cost savings through the service delivery agreement with TSHC. So in that capacity, at the end of the day, there is an adjustment to be made in the amount of $5.225 million to settle with TSHC as part of the agreement to provide the 2024 TSHC surplus. And in return, TSHC will receive the 2025 expected budget deficit as agreed in the 2025 budget process with the City of Toronto and TSHC. Along with the attachment number 1, attachment 2 also highlights the key financial position of TSHC. And I will take any questions if there are any further questions on that. Just a quick note on, go ahead.
Thanks again, Vince. Brenda, go ahead.
Vince, this excess of revenue, the 5 point whatever million, are we assuming that, will that be reoccurring in this year, 2025? I mean, it's a fairly large sum of money. And I know there's often situational things, but is this indicative of an ongoing excess of revenue that might be occurring in this subsequent year?
Through the chair, so this $5.416 million that we realized in 2024 is a preliminary result at this point.
Okay.
It is a I would say a one-time, just due to the fact that in 2024, the significant or the majority of this came from TSHC. So a majority of the expenses were under budgeted. And so in that capacity, that came back. And again, I mentioned earlier, there's about a $10.854 million in terms of surplus arising from the reconciliation. So in this capacity here, this is a one-time. We're expecting to have a deficit in 2025. And so this would offset that deficit in the next year.
Yeah.
And we can look, and the next item is on the budget note on the 2025, but this is a one-time. This is the first time that we've seen this type of surplus. And again, the majority of it arising from TSHC's operation. Some of it in terms of, the lower expenses on the service delivery agreement, but also in other areas of operations, including on the revenue piece where we had a significant increase as well. So it is a one-time item, and it's not expecting to be happening in future year.
So you're saying it's the lower expenses that resulted in a lot of this,
Correct.
and that lower expense won't continue in the next year? Okay.
Yeah.
And how does this relate to the ongoing, I mean, maybe Tom, you can answer this. How does this relate to the ongoing discussions we're having about our service agreement renewal or reconfiguration or renegotiations? I mean, is it tied into those discussions as well?
Yes, through the chair to the board. Yes, Brenda, it is, and this really helps to stress the importance of an appropriate budget allocation.
Exactly.
Across both of the, so right, when the corporation was stood up in June of 2022,
Yes.
getting to the finish line, it wasn't kind of a forensic exercise. Right now, we're at the table now. Look, this is a real focus in terms of these cost allocations, because in that we don't want to continue to see these extremes in the reconciliation.
Exactly.
So a more definitive, accurate cost budget allocation, we would be optimistic to see less of that spread. So yeah.
And how far along are we in that negotiation? Because we've been discussing this, of course, for a while, and we were hoping for some direction from council. Through the counselor, I think we were asking to approach council as to some pressure to try and move these negotiations along, because they've been somewhat stalemated. So where are we with that process?
Through the chair, I am going to in camera provide a verbal update on this, so I'll be able to speak more specifically.
Perfect.
But we are actively working with the city.
Very good. Thank you very much. That answers it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Brenda.
Chair.
All right. So,
Chair,
sorry. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, my apologies. I was trying to get your attention. So, a couple of quick questions. At any given time, could I ask how many vacant units do we have in our portfolio?
Through the chair to
Go ahead, Tom.
Through the chair to the board. So we have our vacancy rate now is like roughly 1.4%, 1.5, let's say 1.5%. And so it's very low. So when you think we have 15,000 units, 10% is 1,500. So, 1.5% is just like around 150, 250 units vacant at any one time. And so it's a very low number.
No, and that's, I'm just trying to establish what that translates to in terms of number of units. You said about 250 units. And is this like average? And look, I'm just asking from the point of view of, even if we have, 10, 20, 100 units vacant, when there's such a need for housing, what seems why are we not filling all of them? Why are we not at, 100%? Occupancy at this point, given the need for housing, and there must be a backlog of applications already, right?
Yeah, yes. So through the chair to the councillor. So it would be for us almost impossible to be at that 100% when you consider that the notification period for the vacancy, the people vacate the unit, we have to put it in a state of a good repair for it to rent to the next person. So there is a gap there, and I know that when we compare ourselves across the province to other local housing corporations, we are below the average. So there could be some like minimal improvement there, but this is just about how we are turning units around quickly.
Okay, no, fair enough, Tom. Thank you. And you're right. There's always going to be a gap, but if we could push the envelope there, that'd be great. Now, on another note, when I see a point made here on the report, higher than expected salary and benefit costs, what I'm grappling with there is how can we have any surprises in this category to the tune of 1.7 million, I believe, is what I'm reading here. So Vince, I don't know, maybe that's a question for you, or maybe not, but I'll leave somebody to answer.
I can take that one again. So through the chair to the councillor. So we first of all, there was a vacancy rate which we set, a staff vacancy rate which we set in our budgeting process at for 2024. It's done each year, and when we saw that we're in a surplus position, it didn't require us to fill that vacancy rate to the extent that we did. And also what we did is we have work of the corporation that we don't have staff to do. So we intentionally, when we saw that there was a surplus, we brought on some consulting staff to help us move work forward. So that would, and then there were some other outlying staffing costs, which Vince may address, but I do just want to be, transparent with the board that when we did see that we were in a surplus position, we did choose to keep staff providing service to the tenants and doing important work moving forward.
Okay. This isn't a typical amount every year. I don't think it's this high all the time.
Teacher, Teacher, no. Or Vince, go ahead.
Yeah, so through the chair, under the report, there is a list of items as well that included, but to your point earlier, Councillor, this is not a normal circumstances. I mean, like Tom mentioned to you earlier before, the vacancy rate, just as a very clear item, we budgeted 7% vacancy rate. The achievement is at 5.6% actual rate. So certainly, we had to do that to adjust and to be able to balance the 2024 budget. And so from that perspective, it's a lesson learned. And in 2025, we definitely didn't proceed with a 7% in terms of vacancy rate. So, moving forward in 2025 and future, definitely, that line should be a lot more better. There are also other contingency that we've included in there as well. And so I'm not going to get into too much detail on that respect there, but there were also additional reserve that we need to put in for benefits. And on top of it as well, we had to hire some additional staff for frontline to support some of the work that is needed, but also for backfill some of the corporate positions that was deferred since 2022. So there are a number of items within that, but certainly in 2025, it is much more tighter, and we should be able to adjust it. And again, the only reason why some of these were a little bit higher is that we realized at the early onstart that some of the project needs to go through, but we were expecting as well some higher expected surplus as well from TSHC and along with the other operations, and including in our case here, professional services and also legal expenses, whereby we included those ones there. So from a net perspective wise, it still comes into right at par with respect to the overall expense for the year.
Okay, thank you, Vince. And final question, promise, on the interest income, 179,000. I'm just curious, how are we investing that, and at what rate are we percentage rate are we getting currently? And are there, and I'm sure you've looked at it, so I don't want to suggest we're not, but any way of maximizing revenue there to do maybe better than what we're doing now?
Through the chair, the interest income is one of the best rate that we could receive through the normal deposit per the investment policy that is outlined with TSHC as well. There's not a lot of means that we can sort of deal with that, because again, the most money we can actually gain from that is put into an offset account with GIC, which based on our limited cash capacity wise, there's not a lot of that. And TSHC keeps us very tight on that perspective. And so, and again, the biggest portion of that overall was that at the earlier part of the year, the interest rate was much higher. Therefore, we were able to get a little bit more. But, you know, certainly in 2025, we expect that interest income going to be a little bit lower than what we anticipate to have as well. And just, yeah.
Vince, is, you know, like if they could be locked up in GICs, maybe at a higher rate for a year or two, that we, you know, in GICs, we can get double, triple what you would get on a normal interest account.
Yeah, through the chair, I would agree with that. But most of our cash, we are operating within a 2-3 month window. We don't have that leeway to essentially put that cash within a much longer period of time. And also, yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And I just want to sort of echo some of the sentiments expressed by the Councillor in terms of the vacancy rate. And thanks, Tom, for your response. And, you know, I know that we're doing our best to try and minimize that non-occupancy period, but given the situation we find ourselves in Toronto with an extensive waiting list and all the things that we're focusing on in housing and homelessness, this continues to be an important conversation. So anything that we could do to try and streamline and limit, you know, would be appreciated because it does sort of have a direct impact on our people. So thanks again, Council, for raising that issue, and thanks, Tom, and thanks for the work that you folks are doing. And I know that we are above the benchmark, but still, we can push the envelope a bit more. Might be worth the while. So thank you. All right, so we'll now move to item number 3, which is to have a motion to move into our closed session under Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation Bylaw 1-2021, subsection 419, subsection 1A, 1J, and 1L. So can I get a motion that we close our this session and move into in camera?
So moved.
Moved by Brenda.
So moved.
Seconded by Jim. All in favor? Okay, that is approved. So I'll wait until I get the signal from Karen that we are off the live stream.